Welcome to another morning, or actually today's midday with the Bullcritters Corner. This is Steve,
And this is John.
and we're just gonna talk about some role-playing stuff, whatever kind of comes to mind. We've been spitballing some ideas, and this is just an opportunity to talk.
Yep. We were thinking about things that we could go over today that might be interesting to us. We just recently started a Star Wars campaign on a Friday role-playing session, and we use a form of Star Wars found online that uses the 5th Ed SRD. I think I said it last time.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what to discuss. There's a lot of different topics that are running through our heads recently, so...
Yeah, also a lot of ideas that are coming up from us working on our module.
Yeah.
One of which is just, there's a lot more work in making a module than I thought there was from a DMing standpoint.
A lot more work if you want to make a good module, I think. Like, we could actually walk away with what we have done with this, like a small few things added in, just packaged up and be, technically finished. But now that we're done with the base of it, we have to flesh, like, a couple nuances out and then add some, like, the photo and make sure our backgrounds are good, make sure everything's proofed right.
The formatting is going to be...
The thing I think that sets you apart, really.
That is definitely
look
something
at
that
the 5th Ed Star Wars that we just were... Right.
That had some very nice formatting.
Yeah, a very nice format. It looked professional. Like the first time I looked at it, I said, is this sort of official thing?
Actually, if you look, I think it's either in the first couple pages or the very back pages, he has actually... what is it called when you shout someone out?
Oh, like a special thanks page in the back?
Yeah, to all the artists that contributed art to his work, because all the art in there is actually fan-made art.
Oh, that's... Are you sure? It looked like some of it could have been pulled from earlier Star Wars things.
It might... I'm not...
Like Harrison's
I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of... there's like a solid quarter page or maybe a third of a page. It's just artist credits.
So we also need to set up alerts for when people join the room. So if anybody does enter the room, just drop a hi. We'll be able to see you on the chat logs.
We have the chat up here, so...
so that was the way the 5th Ed Star Wars module was created. It looks very professional. I think that once we finish that professionalism set on our module, it'll be a step ahead. Plus, it'll be easier to do that than for something like his core book because it's shorter.
It is shorter, but once we get the templates laid out, the formatting done, being able to slot all the information in will be a lot easier, especially as we go into working on module number 2.
Yeah, and because we'll already have a template formed for all of the page settings and things like that as well.
I think a lot of what we're doing right now is figuring out the base concepts of what needs to be done. I think next time when we go into module 2, we'll have a better idea of how to lay out our workflow because we know what the jobs are, what the individual tasks are.
Yeah. So what do you want to do you want to talk about running for under 4? I was kind of thinking like something with this new system. Like, yeah, I'm really inspired by this new game. I think it's like a breath of fresh air almost coming up from D&D, which I know we haven't been playing D&D for a long time, but as you know, for me, D&D is the system where it's like the hardest for me to attach myself to, like...
See, I find that funny because we're essentially playing D&D, but I can also see where you're getting the fresh of breath air, because I think from a DMing standpoint, even though the core system is the same stuff we've been doing for D&D, I think as a DM, my brain approaches how to lay out the story, how to prepare things differently. Like, we went through an entire session and y'all didn't have a combat encounter, and it didn't feel slow, it didn't feel dull.
Yeah.
We went through about 3.5 hours of gaming, and the story progressed, and nobody shot, cut, or punched anything.
Well, that might be why. Yeah, it does feel a little less rote. Like there's a formula almost for the D&D side of things. But also, I think like Star Wars as a world is a lot more. It still holds a lot of like fantasy interest. Like D&D, it's like, no, I know this monster, and I know that monster, and I know this monster, and I've seen this monster, and what does the monster do? Oh, well, based on, I don't know, there's certain things in the system that are the same.
Sure.
And I know the system is the same, but with this new setting on top of it, it gives this like, ooh, I don't know these monsters. Ooh, I don't know what this
it's
like
definitely
planet could be
a
like.
setting situation, and I think as far as D&D is concerned, you can get the same thing out of it as long as the players and the DM, and I can say it clearly from my point of view as a DM, the way I approached preparing for the Star Wars game, still was underprepared in comparison to what I probably should have done. But my thought process, when I'm doing D&D, I think, okay, I need 2 to 3 encounters for a session. I need to throw a trap somewhere. And for some reason, when I'm thinking D&D, the social encounters, which I love social encounters, but for some reason when I'm DMing for D&D, they fall off. They're not at the forefront of my brain.
Yeah, that might be a good challenge for you in the future. I know you already DM pretty much everything, so at some point in time, your want to continue to DM probably isn't too high, but an all role playing D&D game, a political, like not just kind of political, and then we let the players move off and do like real political stakes, like hell in Vampire, right? Mm-hmm. After the entire coterie gets, and spawned, they could just like go to Idaho, and like we're gonna own Billings, Montana. That's what we're gonna do.
They could
Why? Because there's nobody here, and we could just own it.
Nowhere.
You know, and they don't. But there's a reason they don't, because there's this reason for and I know that when we play Vampire, we play it probably not the way everybody plays Vampire, as far as our political intrigue and our working against each other and our machinations. But if you could build it so that the players knew those are the types of characters you're making, or hell, make a vampire character, but really what we're going to actually do is take that character and kind of transfer it to D&D.
The concept.
That way, your mind stays still in that, intrigue and
I believe one of the reasons that D&D doesn't pull my mind into the political game, right? When you're setting up a D&D character, you've got your stats, and some of them are social, some of them are physical. But when you finally get down to the class breakdown, the class abilities, the cool crap that you get for being a fighter or a barbarian or a ranger, most of those aren't social.
Yeah, well, that's the benefit of the physical part of it.
That is the benefit.
There are certain things that are social that a fighter gets and a barbarian gets. And that's things appropriate. Intimidation.
Yeah, intimidation.
Which is something that's used in vampire situations.
No, you're not wrong. That is there, but you have to...
And then say you had a high intelligence plus a high charisma, or high intelligence plus a decent charisma and a high strength or something. You're using intimidation. Like you don't have to physically intimidate necessarily.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people fall short on when thinking about intimidation, the skill. In the skills breakdown, I don't know about in 5th edition.
I know where your kids go to school.
Is just as
effective as I'm going to break your arm.
But when you're talking about it from the context of mechanics, I know in 3.5 they said, hey, you can use your strength in place of your charisma in an intimidation check. And but when you're using your strength, you're really flexing. You're doing something.
Just like your posture's up, you're towering over somebody, or you're looking like maybe you're doing something physical that's a little like.
Well, when you're using your strength as the source of your intimidation bonus, you're actually really doing something that heavily inclines or leans on the fact that you're a very strong person.
Yeah.
Where if you're just trying to look imposing, even if you're kind of strong, I think that falls more on charisma. So if you're going to use your strength as the source of your intimidation, you really have to make the pinnacle of how you're intimidating the fact that you are strong.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, if I have an 18 strength and I suddenly stand with my posture completely right and I ball myself up just a little bit, I can still threaten you in a way that's not physical.
Definitely.
It's just that the physically imposing part is what's getting across the idea that I could accomplish the other thing I'm saying. Like, I can hurt everyone you love. I'm not threatening you right now, but you see me and how big I am, and you go, oh shit, he probably could get away with that. He
Yeah,
could do that.
definitely that. But yeah, because very few of the special powers or the special abilities of the classes drive themselves in the direction of thinking, I can definitely use this socially. Short of probably the illusionist, the rogue, and the bard, most of your standard abilities don't really come across as social encounter abilities. Now, a creative player can bend almost anything into a social situation, so I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just at initial thought, you look at it and it's like, okay, I get to attack two things, or I get,
Well, no, I mean, also, I mean, there's agency too, though. There's, or yeah, not agency. There's agents, in a political thing. There's more than just people who can speak eloquently, or can. There are people that need to be the infiltrators, or need to be the assassins, or a ranger assassin works pretty darn well. But I mean, again, he's not an assassin in the D&D combat sense. He is a person who lays low, perceives a whole bunch of information, so he knows when and where he has to be.
Yeah.
And then is very accurate and deadly when he does decide to shoot something. Oops, sorry. When he does decide to shoot something. So, that's a way to play, or barbarian. Okay, what kind of assassin are you? Well, I know his route's going to go through this alley. So when it comes through here, I'm going to rage, and I'm just going to waylay through everybody, and then I'm leaving. What happened? A hit squad came and took out the president, or, whatever. Took out the cleric.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and you're right. It's just, again, for me as a DM, because the classes have their abilities that they feel purpose-built for combat.
Like Gangrel. Like a city Gangrel.
Yeah.
But you can still role play with.
No, you definitely can. You're right. It's just because the way it's built, my thought process just goes to, I want them to use their cool abilities. The only place I know in my brain that I can definitely let them use the full scope of their cool abilities is in a combat encounter.
Well, that's fine though. You can have combat encounters in your political.
No, you can have both.
Because we've done that. Looking at Vampire, there's combat. It just means that okay, this guy won't be so politically active himself, maybe, because he's not that character, but that doesn't mean that somebody in the hierarchy goes, this guy's a really good tool I want on my team. I'm going to go recruit him. And then the role-playing can be through the selections. What happened? Well, you just realized that the first person you killed, who I don't know, you signed up for work with this guy, and it was a farmer who owed a debt, and you just murked him, and you murked an innocent dude. I think you can kind of get away with that.
Are we still getting the microphone?
Yeah. It's down here, man.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're definitely right. And they're concepts that definitely are in my head. It's just, in delivery, when I go to D&D, it seems like I put them in a box and I put them back in the closet instead of keeping all the tools out.
Well, this is one of the things we were thinking about was the genre system mixing. Is the way the game is played inherent in the genre, or is it inherent in the system? And I think we kind of talked about how it's kind of inherent in the system. Vampire lends itself almost immediately to this very fluid, role-play heavy, backstabby, intriguey, politically thing. It really lends itself to it. Whereas D&D, just by the system and the way it is, I would love to hear people on how they run, political or city campaign kind of things that are not combat. They might go 4 or 5 sessions with no combat, but still be very intense and very ooh, what's going to happen? Imagine that blowing up the house in Vampire when everybody's being invited there in that game that you had played. That could be a form of combat. It really is just one move that you're trying to play. But people are dying because of it. So you have an issue.
Definitely, there's ways to do it, and again, I think a lot of it comes down to the mindset of everyone approaching the table for the game. As you said, system is part of it, but in what we just talked about now, genre kind of plays an effect too. We're running a D&D Star Wars, but the way I'm approaching the genre is completely different than I would approach our Tuesday.
So it might not be completely inherent in the system then.
No. I think the system has a bigger pull than the genre, but both kind of definitely intermingle for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to figure out how much for what, because then you can start playing around with different systems and genres and go, well, maybe there's other things I can apply this to that actually work really well, like D&D. Can you imagine if it was run like BattleTech? Not MechWarrior, like BattleTech.
I
It would be
think it'd be interesting.
It would change the way combat works.
It would. That makes me think of that document that Joey sent me, the gritty realism D&D, where they use all of the optional rules, and then they added a few that like dropped the hit points, changed the way armor worked.
Yeah, where it was a DR instead of, or it was like one pool of DR that they would go away after it got hit.
Yeah, and I gotta say, just giving it a read, it made me think of sessions that we ran in Legend of the Five Rings. It made me think of Hunter, because I think the way that players would approach anything in the world becomes very different when the lethality gets ramped up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there are players out there that no matter how many years they've role-played, they just still run into combat, usually because they've played nothing but things like TNT or like Big Eyes Little Mouth or whatever it's called. Things like that.
They run
haphazardly. Yeah, they run haphazardly into combat situations. Like, hey, there's 5 ways to solve this. I know. Let's go down and the bash the doorway, and now we're in a bunch of combat. And that might not be what all the other players want, but and they drag the other players into it over and over again. And since they can be healed and they can take long rests and all this other thing, they kind of like never get over the idea that that's not what you do.
Yeah.
You play L5R once, you don't even want to get into combat, and combat happens to find you, and like, there's a good chance you're going to die. That's it. The DM is sitting on the other side going, God, I hope they roll well, or else the whole story's over every time I throw anybody at them.
It makes me, what you just described makes me think of a L5R game that I played in. And the person that was DMing was a fairly competent D&D DM. He'd never actually picked up L5R. And his first encounter that he decided to throw into the mix, we were a group of like 5 or 6 samurai. And we were traveling across the plains. There was smoke in the distance over a hill rise or something, right? So we start to approach, and we see that there's bandits just slaughtering some peasants, and we're like, well, that won't do.
Yeah, we gotta...
But here's the thing. The moment that we saw them, one of the other players in the group was I forget what it's called now, but he was the type of lion that has already done the thing where they were offered seppuku, or the opportunity to be in this type of suicide soldier, die for the glory of the empire, right? So the moment he sees we're about to go into the fight and everyone's agreed, he lets out this monstrous battle cry, and I'm like, crap,
they're surprised. Thanks.
We're 300 yards away.
Yeah.
They have bows and arrows, surprisingly. The DM didn't realize how expensive arrows were. But so these guys have bows and arrows. We had to cover 300 yards of open ground with archers. And, well, first turn, off goes the samurai that let out the death cry.
Yeah. I'll kill you!
And then right behind him goes the crab. And then in the initiative order, then went the bandits, I think it was 5 or 6 bandits.
Which is already an insane encounter.
Yeah.
Because bandits are like level 5 CR for level 1 creatures.
The bandits that are in the book are not peasant bandits.
No, they're not. They're like samurai bandits.
They're samurai Ronin bandits, yeah.
They're
his intention was...
It should be 1 bandit and like 3 Ashigaru peasants.
Yeah.
And that would be his
intention,
and difficult encounter.
It would be difficult. But his intention was just peasant bandits.
No, I did that too. When I ran like 4 bandits in the thing. I was like, oh well, it's the bandits in the back of the book. So I mean, that's the intro bandit. And then I ran them, and I'm like, oh wow, that's slaughter. That's, you guys didn't have a chance in holy smokes to finish this.
So in that encounter, the first two barbarians, the first 2 samurai rushed off. My character was a lion tactician, and I forget what the other guy was, but he was about to run off too. But I went in front before him in initiative, and I just grabbed him by the armor, and I was like, "They're going to die. There's no point in this."
Yeah.
We went back behind the hill, and literally 2 rounds.
Yeah.
They didn't even cover 100 yards before they were pincushions.
I mean, imagine how dumb. Like, imagine you're watching that movie. Okay, the only way that scene even works in the movie, if the movie's about the 2 people going around the hill, or if like the movie is about a totally different group of people, and this is just setting up like the mood of the movie.
Yeah.
It's a dad, no heroes here. Okay, we need, look, we need to go back around the hill. This is pointless. They're all gonna die. And then you go back around the hill, and like the next shot is like 2 horsemen coming around the hill and killing both of you too. Where it's like even the smart guy who runs away dies. Like that's the world you're in now. Like. Other than that, there's no because think about how silly that is. But the thing is that's what happens when you take somebody who's like just mollywopping stuff in D&D, and you bring them into a world where it's like, no, there are real consequences here.
Yeah.
Like a sword hitting you, is bad, very bad. Like it can kill you.
Definitely.
One hit can kill you.
The other side of that is in D&D. There is this preconceived notion that every encounter that the DM puts in front of you is an encounter that not only has to be fought, but can be won.
Yeah. Sometimes... Well, I think that's coming from the background of video games.
I believe it does come from the background of video games.
Even open world games don't allow your challenge. Like, even, like, let's say Oblivion, open world game, right?
Yeah.
They did scaling for your level to make it so that you could go anywhere in the world. There hasn't been a game in quite some time that I remember where it was like, no, you can go anywhere you want. But short of MMOs. But you can go anywhere you want, but you're not allowed to go here. Or like you're allowed to go here. Yeah, you can go here. Everything's 30 levels over you. It will kill you. Do what you want.
MMOs tend to be the most specific ones, but then you learn very quickly, this area is for this level, this area is for this and this level. What I would like to see in something like an I can't talk
MMO.
today. An MMO. Let's just go to World of Warcraft, for example. You played a little bit at least?
Yeah. Level
you remember the
40 or
Barons,
something.
right?
I remember.
Or did you play
I mined
Alliance?
a lot and did. I was Alliance. And
Okay.
did a lot of
Elwyn Forest, the forest you start in, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that area is like 1st to 10th level or
yeah.
1st to 15th.
Man, you need to leave before 15th. What are you doing? You're taking way too much of your time killing
Probably,
small things.
but imagine if there was a grove in that forest with a level 60 dragon.
No, exactly. Like, imagine if it's like, oh, look, you're in this area, and over in that cave is a level 40, and over here is a level 26, and these areas have level 12. And, like you could get across the map within level 12 if you took this route here. Or you ran through a couple spots, and got away from the bad guy. But it's not, here's this level chunk, here's this level chunk, here's this level chunk.
For the D&D terminology, it's more like there are still certain creatures that will be in areas. Imagine that you're in a hilly area that's mostly very basic wildlife, but then for some reason, for the last 20 years, there's been a boulet ravaging the area.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can also look in the idea of, like, well, we don't do it often. No, even you. No, a lot of people.
I don't.
Like, where you're like, okay, well, I guess the problem is, as a DM, you really are trying at least most to stay them on the course of some sort. Like, the thing that you have constructed, unless you're completely freewheeling it. But then... At the same, like, oh, you guys, there's a cave over there. They always say, don't say there's a thing there unless you can go there or interact with it. You have something built, or you're ready to build something for that.
I think what I'd like, you're right, but what I'd like to do what I would like to do, because it would be a refreshing of the genre, refreshing of the brain pattern. It's called a West Marches game. And, okay, so essentially you get... more than your standard group of players. You usually...
You build extra characters?
Not just extra characters. It's literally a number of players. Like, I think the standard example of a West Marches game is 10 players. And essentially, you guys all have a hub city, a hub where everything starts. And it's not that necessarily the game starts with a quest. You just are exploring. You're a group of adventurers that explore the world. Now, the thing is, for Westmarch's game, I go, okay, well, you guys figure out when you have time to play, and you guys are on a forum or have a mailing group or whatever, so y'all can all talk to each other. And that way your players determine how many of you work together for whatever course of action you're going on. But then I've already got an area that's like maybe 200 or 300 square miles around the city that's set up with, forests, hills, some ruins. Then you guys just go and explore. And there can be story to it. The thing is, if you explored the dungeon and you never tell the other players, the other adventurers, about the fact that you explored that dungeon, they might come across it 2 or 3 months after you cleared it. And they might find the secret room that you missed. Or it's been repopulated as it's suddenly empty, maybe something else moved into it. Let's say you go kill a Hydra, and now there's this entire fucking swampy area that once was dominated by the apex predator Hydra. Oh, that's gone. Now maybe a group of trolls have taken over the Hydra den.
It reminds me of the idea that I had once back when we were talking before about how you could run an in-person game where you ran like 2 groups,
yes,
and each of them were on an independent story that you actually began to collapse into the same story, where like they were on the same side or opponents or so, like they didn't necessarily
even
know
if they're
each
just
other's
racing
groups
for
thing.
the same relic.
Yeah, and so you run 2 groups, and they don't know about the other group until you begin to mesh those things together, and then it becomes, and then you can actually sit them down in one thing, and then you have competitors and people working together, and like different relationships forming and bonding, and
it could make for very interesting.
It'd be fun to try as an experiment just to see how that would play. It's one of those neat things, kind of like bringing old characters back in, that have been in the game before, or other games, bringing them back into worlds for the players to get that cameo.
Yeah, cameo. I've even thought, since you usually have the character sheet still, at least, let's say with the game where you have Welby. Let's imagine that in another session you had a different character, and then I was like, oh, by the way, John, I need you to put on your Welby hat, because Welby just is joining your group for this particular leg of the adventure.
Yeah, and then you can bring back the old character. You get to have a little fun with the character you used to run.
Yep.
And then kind of like when Joey did with Drake.
Yes.
From
the Hunter
game. Years after his character was done playing, because it was a totally different group and the timeline had continued on, he was home alone in his big house, crazy, insane, and he was setting out table places for dead compatriots and talking to them as though they were still there. And he played all of that while our new group was interacting with him for the first time, looking for a financial benefactor.
Yeah, that was actually really interesting.
It was really, really cool to see. For me, I'm sure Joey had fun with it, but it was really cool for me to see that, I thought.
To see it was great, because you had experienced Drake when he was at his prime.
And so watching him get played to where now he's this feebly minded, like Howard Hughes type, it was impressive. It was a good little run.
I think there was also a big benefit from Joey being the one doing it. He's a really strong role player.
Yeah.
But even with a less strong role player, I think the opportunity to just put that hat back on, even for a brief time, is
could be quite fun.
It can be a lot of fun, especially if you got attached to the character while you were playing it.
Yeah, you get a little bit revitalized from getting to touch that again. On this Star Wars, this 5th Ed Star Wars, I have a question.
Sure.
It just popped in my head. So in the Roll20 that we run it in, you have that background picture of the Spectre?
Yes.
Ghost? Spectre, right?
Spectre.
It's the ship that we have right now that we're
running. That is
running.
the ship that you have right now.
And you have the pods set out on the screen.
Yeah,
for,
1 second. Let me pull that up, actually.
Where the rooms are in that, right?
Yes.
I still haven't got a breakdown. I mean, we're supposed to have been running in that for a while. Are we going to break down an understanding of where those things and what those things are exactly? Like,
Okay,
you gave a short breakdown at the beginning, but
the breakdown here, the picture that you're going to be seeing is actually something that I happened to accidentally find that was a breakdown of the ship.
yeah,
As it would be in its standard format, right?
yeah.
Right now, because I also have a character sheet for it if we ever get into a space battle.
Gotcha.
Minimize it a little bit. So, actually, why minimize it when I can pull it off? You guys don't have all of the modules. This would be the ship at its premium. Like, it has
Can you zoom in a little bit there on that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah.
So right now, you guys have the cargo bays. You have the front gunner and the top gunner.
Okay.
This right here is an empty bay because yours doesn't have the docking portion for extra fighter. This thing actually is customizable with that.
Oh, is that what a phantom is?
Yeah.
I thought a phantom just meant like it was a place to put a ship, like say I was flying somewhere and I wanted a secret ship to fly out of it.
This is also where your docking clamp is for hauling large freight. But if you're not hauling large freight, this is where you would dock a single man fighter, which is a phantom.
Oh, okay. I thought phantom meant like secret access, secret.
I mean, you could modify it for that, but that's not the way it is at the moment. But
Gotcha,
these
gotcha.
are both empty modules right now. This section right here where it has the floor and passenger medical area is actually your housing area, right? Or no, your crew quarters are there. Never mind. So these are both blank blank tiles as well. Because right now the only modules the ship has is the 2 hyperdrives, the nav computer, the housing area, and then it has a extra section that's actually smuggling storage. Like hidden compartments in which you can...
And how many hidden... But no, I meant like, are we going to go into like what the crew quarters specifically look like? And what the galley, or what, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have a galley, never mind.
You don't have a galley at the moment.
But you get what I'm saying.
Right now, I did give a very brief description of it. It's just a large room with double bunk beds. It can house up to 8. Can you customize that in the future? Yes. I mean, the inside, your dimensions are a bit limited, but how things are laid out or whatever, that you guys can modify.
Well, I was thinking, one of the things I was thinking is, I actually kind of like the photo stuff, so it was actually kind of neat. I don't know how long it took you to pull stuff up like that, but if you could find a picture of a crew quarters that's zoomed up.
I probably could. Actually,
kind of thing. And then when somebody's in those particular rooms moving around, you'd believe it or not, like those pictures actually added quite a bit of my like that right there when we were in the bar. That actually was kind of neat.
Didn't take me too long to find.
Yeah.
And then the Lucre Hulk, I already had this pulled because I knew that's where I was leading y'all.
Yeah. See that? I mean, it gave a bit of like we don't get much of that in D&D, you know. I think it'd be kind of neat.
I guess the reason I don't try to find stuff like that for you in D&D is I prefer building the maps, and I'm super procrastinating and I don't build maps. Or I do like what we did for the module where I end up drawing up maps, stuff like this, and then I feel it's crap, so I don't ever show it to y'all.
Yeah, well...
I don't have the confidence.
But what I mean is, like, whether or not you draw the map up. Like, if you drew a map up for some encounter, even a hillside in D&D, and then you were like, here's the hillside that you're on, before you put the battle map up.
If I started describing a bog and then I put a picture like this right here on the... Are you going to show me the picture? Come on.
Yeah, something like that.
If I then put that up so you had
like, wow, there's like a patch of light going onto that little lake piece too. It's a bunch of added stuff that you don't even need to make. You just, the image kind of brings it.
I need to, that. Another thing, actually this was easy. This is something I really should be doing, especially since we're on a digital format. The other one is the music. And when I do make a point of including it, when I take the time to find music that fits to what the mood and theme is, it's really good. The problem is finding new sounds every week.
Well, you don't. You just create a library, and then you pull back from that library over and over again. Since it's something in the background, kind of like in film, right?
It's not super difficult to do.
If sound is doing its job in film,
The
sound is Well, no, not just that. The sound is affecting you, but you don't notice it. So it's not like you're, oh, this is the same song he played last session. Well, that means the song isn't doing its job anyway. Because you shouldn't, I mean, it's not supposed to stand out. It's not Final Fantasy Battlewind music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's supposed to just blend into the background while giving you an emotional up or down.
I want to know
some
who
kind of
did
connotation.
this so I can actually... It doesn't have any artist notes anywhere.
Well, it could very well be from one of the series of books they released that had the schematics on all their damn ships.
It's possible, but still. I gotta say, for the Star Wars game, I was really happy with the names that you guys... I mean, we got a Jawa whose name is Kruk Lear.
Yeah.
Like, that's an awesome name. Then we've got the human, Marcus. I mean, it makes sense that it's a more simple name, so I'm not really left or right on that.
Dude,
Kruk has
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. I know. That's why I'm not... Maybe if there was an interesting last name on Marcus, I'd be less like, it kind of sticks out.
Marcus Cussing Marksman.
I mean, you get what I'm saying though. The robot that Kruk has, Wrecked. I love that name.
Yeah,
especially
like
since
Wrecked.
the idea is the robot's built out of scraps from everything else.
Plus, he has the attitude of a wrecked.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of like Bender if.
Bender, or what's the one in Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
The blue guy, the rock dude, blue guy.
Yeah,
It kinda
okay,
reminds
like
me
a
of
mixture
that in a
between
way.
Bender and that.
like a bit of Bender dickness and a bit of that guy's aloofness.
Then we have the Chiss Zernu. I like that name.
What is a Chiss again now?
Do you remember Thrawn?
Thrawn.
Yeah, blue
the
skin,
plane
red eyes.
from Magic the Gathering.
That's Thran. Spelled the same way.
Hey, listen here, buddy. I'm sorry, is that a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards that came up when you searched for Thran?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. This is a Chiss, these guys.
With, like, human... Why do they have blue eyes? Blue skin and red eyes, and then the Duros have blue skin and red eyes? That's a human and the Duros got it on, bro. Seriously, it's the same exact blue color skin with red eyes and a human form.
I don't know what the background of the people
The Duros and the humans.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
okay,
when a man loves a woman, when a human Duros... that doesn't work. When a male Duros and a human woman meet on a Saturday night at a bar, that's the Chiss. Either that or somebody just got tired and was like, yeah, blue skin, red eyes. Sir, we already have like 3 races with blue skin. Yeah, it's a common feature. Blue skin, red eyes. Let's go. They see an infrared and radiation affect them differently.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not very up to what is the going-ons of Chiss, other than I knew that Thrawn was a Chiss.
The character knows about Chiss, the player?
Definitely not.
Oh, then what are the Chiss? Are they even in the book?
Yeah.
Man, out of all the supplyable player character races, 2 of them are blue with red eyes?
Yeah.
I get Durger and Drow.
Durger and Drow. And Darrow. Actually, Durger and Darrow, at least they're both still kind of dwarves. But, no, so we got the Chiss, and he makes for an interesting character. I believe somewhere there was a thing. Again, we're not playing super hard to canon for the Chiss. I have no...
You can't play Star Wars and not play super hard to canon. What are you talking about? I already looked up like the back history for my character's race, like their interactions from the time period. I found out that they're the ones that supplied the Mandalorian War, like with HK9. The model from Knights of the Old Republic. We're the Durosians are the ones that like created those guys.
That's cool.
Sold them to the Mandalores for Mandalorian War, like the Civil War or whatever. Like 500 million or some crazy ass. And then we're the ones that did the robots, the Trade Federation, or the Nemoidians are, which are just genetically altered Durosians. So we're like, that's what we do is we create stuff and sell stuff. And apparently we like the largest starships in the galaxy, the capital ships. We build those for other races. Yeah, I'm just like,
that's kind of
okay.
Cool. And then of course we have our what are they called again?
What?
Your race.
Derosian. Duros.
Yeah, and what's your name?
What I can't Zap. What it's Zerjax.
Zerjax, yeah.
Yeah, Zerjax. Why? Because that seems like a
you know what? When you're
name.
throwing that Z, you kind of get that reverb thing in the voice that's in the race. I wonder if there's a way you can work that in, just running the Z's in words, if you can get that.
Yeah, I can just talk like I'm that guy from South Park. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, Lord. We're going off the rails now, aren't we?
What? My Derosian had throat cancer from years of smoking death sticks, and now he needs to use a voice box.
Nice. But yeah.
Most of my friends can't tell the difference.
I'm curious to see where it goes next week. I do like the energy in the room. Everyone's kind of jiving and meshing well.
Yeah, I think it's going like, wah!
I'm hoping that maybe some of that energy can translate over to the Tuesday game, but I also think that with a more focused structure for the Tuesday game, from my part, that'll help with how things go as well. Speaking of the Tuesday game, we are going to be in the channel tomorrow, but we're going to do some world building.
Yeah, we're going to go back into our world building. We used a game, the world building game.
It wasn't Microscope. What was it? Dawn Forge, World Forge, something like that.
If you look D&D world building game up on Google, you will find it. Because that's how I found it after you were talking to me about it. That's the search I did.
Yeah.
And we only really got through Age 1. It's 3 ages. It's separated
we got
by 3
through
acts.
Age 1, and we started Age 2 before things started to
just kind of get put on halt. And so, to go back, we could literally go back and reopen that up and just be like, because I think for that game to work, it really has to be a yes and experience, you know, like improv. Like, no one looks at somebody else and goes, no, you can't do that. They just go, yes, that happened, and then this happened because of it, and then this happened, and then so you're just building on it.
What I am going to do, I started doing it, but I procrastinated off of finishing it last night, which I shouldn't have done. I'm going to break open the file where I recorded everything that was done, and I'm going to put it in a more readable format so I can put it out tomorrow, and I think we're going to pick up from the second age. And just move from there.
Oh, everything that's already established, though, right?
Yeah, everything that's established.
Okay, so is that all in Age 1 that all that was established?
No. Early portions Age 2.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, like, so then, like, all of the things that happen could be changed by the time we're done when we get to Age 3.
Yes.
Like, Lamond has been destroyed. The beavers have been genocided.
Okay, the beavers,
the beavers
could
otters,
go back
rather.
and forth.
The otters, rather.
Or the otters, yeah.
The Kuatai. It's like, okay, guys, we can change anything through Act 3 except this one chunk of land right here where we're actually playing right now. That has to be the same when we get done. Just this little chunk.
Well, not necessarily. I can make adjustments.
Lamond has been destroyed. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have dragons. Like, I'm going to rebuild them and their entire job before the war's over. The war's going to happen over Lamond.
Okay.
Of the whole planet over Lamond.
I mean, we kind of already have that. Remember,
and then there's going to be a god that puts another chain, and it's just going to go into Lamond. And then there's going to be devastation. And then I'm going to have a scientist from the gnomes create the first nuclear radioactive device, and he's going to blow it up there. And then it's just like uranium devastation as well. Nothing will be there. It'll just be a flat plane of brown land.
Well, it'll be an interesting
Ramshorn will be much bigger, though.
Yeah.
They had to move somewhere. Sorry, those are the two cities in the game we're playing. Lamond and Ramshorn. And Ramshorn is a tiny little frontier post town, and Lamond is like this French imperial / Roman 1400s type city architecture.
It's weird. The player that was working on it put a lot of strange elements all together in one place.
Yeah, it's like it's not steampunk. It's like steam baroque. Yeah, steam baroque. Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I need to see if
You're
that's
gonna
a
have to
thing
look
when
it
I'm
up,
done.
aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, steam baroque. That's got to be a thing, right? Steam baroque.
I mean, if you find some art for that, that might help inspire us in certain directions.
There's an exhibition called Steam Baroque. It's like Gothic architecture made out of metal. Let's see what else they've got here for these pieces. Like rust industrial metal with Baroque style architectural lines. Yeah, well,
Something to look deeper into, at least.
steam punk variations. Cyberpunk. Oh, yeah. Why steampunk? Cyberpunk would be the first one. Biopunk, nanopunk, post-cyberpunk, steampunk, dieselpunk, stonepunk, sandalpunk, clockpunk, rococo punk, nowpunk, decopunk, mythpunk, swordpunk, elfpunk, or the that's what I thought. Rococo punk is a whimsical punk derivative that thrusts punk attitude into the late Baroque period. Although it is a fairly recent derivative, it's a style visually similar to the New Romantic movement of the 1980s. As one steampunk scholar put it, imagine a world where the Rococo period never ended and had a love child with Sid Vicious. Huh. Yeah, I think I've seen these kinds of things before. But that is Rococo punk dress. I want to see Rococo punk architecture. The French, that Baroque period. You see, yeah, there. They're Baroque punk.
Okay.
Yeah, so now imagine architecture in that. Not steam. It's like Renaissance period, late Renaissance period.
That could be interesting.
Post-Renaissance, even.
Well, maybe if we get some funds together, we can get some actual art of said architecture built.
Yeah, it would be mostly Baroque pillars, like the rejuvenation of that old Latin look, but in the new French way, and then of like just, we're doing no, there's no gods here. We're just putting extra filigree because it looks pretty, and then buttresses. No, they all look pretty, and then taking that and then finding a way to take that gnomish mechanical engineering and then adding it to layer that, and then you kind of would get that. And it doesn't even have to be steam. It could just be, it's magical gnome levers and wheels and cogs.
Well, I don't know. For Frelon, it'd be steam.
Freelon, I like steam though. It has a different look than Le Monde. Freelon is like it feels more like the 800s steam medieval.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
That is kind of the idea. So, but that's what we've been working on, fleshing out our world. We're going to take the Tuesday to give it a much deeper fleshing.
And then we'll have the whole world kind of pulled out. Because we already have races everywhere. We have all of the bits and pieces.
There's some more races we could
the
definitely
map is complete.
put out.
You got the map, right?
Oh, yeah.
For anybody who's watching that isn't familiar with the Tuesday
whoops,
game where we see the map. I think it's good. I think it'll be good. It might rejuvenate and pop, another new life into the group. We've actually survived really well. This group, like we kind of are able to roll on to the next.
This is what we have, and the shape. Actually, now I'm looking at it, looks like a person picking something up.
It looks like, actually it does. It looks like a person picking up a large blocked square, and like somebody's put a prank and like put something above him he's about to hit his lower back on when he stands back up. Ow! Crap! Why would you do
Or
that?
someone kneeling over something. That wasn't intentional. I had 5 or 6 random shapes that we started with.
Yeah, and we picked one, and that's the only one where it looks like a dude's bent over, getting ready to get taken.
This island used to actually be an island, and then during the world creation,
it turned into a codpiece.
The player that had decided to put a race on that island.
Is there like a cone that comes to a point at the far end, and then like a circle that looks like it could be 2 circles put together in the back end of that? I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's like a cod piece, man. Fun. Yeah, no, the map is good. I think that, because we have stuff over every part of the map. So, like, that we know what's there. It's already been, it's just those particular storylines for those people all haven't been fleshed out yet. We fleshed out the ones for the role-playing area we're in, but that's like, what, 1/10 of the map?
I mean, the area that we fleshed out, the area we've been fleshing out is, let me zoom more.
Yeah, so you don't even have the...
So, this is at 300% for the map, and essentially... The area we fleshed out is this square right here. Like, not even, yeah, about that size. And we have the zoomed in map for that now too. We've been working on all of this. The Ram's Horn Terror. This might be the bad one. Is this the bad one or the good one? Yeah, this is the bad one. Okay, so what we need is module. Ram's Horn territory zoomed in.
Oh, nice.
So this is the zoomed in version. This is
what Littleton Farms and Ramshorn, both locations we built in our module.
Yeah. And right now there's some names on the forests and the rivers that are going to be changed. I kind of went into a very strange naming pattern, and John made a really great point about if no one understands the language you've written it in, then it doesn't matter.
Why was it named that?
It doesn't matter how cool or interesting it was to you if there's no context for the people that
live
are
there.
going to. Yeah.
It's like somebody at some point in time had to have actually called it that for the people in the area to be like, oh, that's the blanket River. It's like nobody speaks that language. Was there another group of people here a long time ago? What happened?
So right now the forests actually have proper names for at least 2 of them. The gray wood is what's up here. And then we have the verdant timberlands right here, which is where most of the logging for the area is happening.
Yeah, it looks. I like it. I think it's solid for this step of the module. What I like the most is that you're building a module based off of the games that you ran, and then you're expanding that module so that you can then use your own module that you've just created off of the game you're playing to play the game.
Yeah.
So you're feeding yourself.
I'm doing the prep work. We are doing the prep work for the game, which is why it's a little bit awkward trying to go into what we're going to run next. Cause
yeah, it kind of sucks when you're a player and you're also like, well, I know what's going on in Falan. That's dope. You know, like...
Yeah, it does take a bit of the amazement away.
Yeah, like I'm not going to be able to walk in and be like, oh my god. I might even do that in the game. I might have my character be like, oh wow, it's so fancy. I never would have imagined that.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, it's just the way that works. And I get to play Star Wars, so...
Yeah, at least for the next couple weeks. Don't look at me like that. You knew what you were getting into.
Well, actually, I think I wouldn't be remiss. You know, I mean, you wouldn't be remiss if you put that D&D game off until the full first module was done, and the second module, like I said, was at that point. And that way, when you go back to playing, it's what prep work do you have to do each week? What? I just have to flesh out the things we already have all down. Okay, yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, I think really for the purposes of running that game. For running the Tuesday game, the more important thing for me to have prepared is the descriptions of the areas. So I'm not at the table reaching for the ideas as we're in the process. I think that ends up leading to sometimes shoddy descriptions, but more often it leads to me describing something once one way, and then one of you happen to not have heard it or missed something, and when I describe it the second time, it's an entirely different description, and it's like, wait a minute.
Wait, but I thought you said...
Yeah.
Well, that's like when we were playing Star Wars. So you said that they're coming down in the docking thing, and I was like,
yeah.
Wait, so this is an open air building, and
it,
you're like,
it is an open air building, but when I said dropped, you were getting the context that someone is literally just dropping something in, and what I had meant, if I might have even said dropped off. But either way, it still left the implication that it was dropping. Yeah. And what I really meant is someone had left a pallet of freeze-dried rations.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, there's enough space here. Like, a whole bunch of stuff was going on in my head. And like no, it's already, it's here. It's like they're dropping it off. They're not air dropping it in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Sorry, I just didn't understand the spatial thing here.
No, it actually, in that setting, it makes a lot of sense to be a bit more confused because someone with a speeder or some sort of floating craft could have literally been airdropping.
Yeah, like a ship could have
or
stopped
another
by
ship
and just opened the bag and
been
dropped here's your food.
Is he... one of them's there. One of them's down there. Push the pallet off now.
Yeah. This is your Amazon space delivery. Yeah. Wow, I just ordered it.
But yeah, no, the intention was more that it had been left there. And it was like a thing. It almost felt like for a moment y'all forgot to load your rations. Like y'all left them behind.
Yeah, who needs to eat?
Who needs to eat?
It's just space. We can always forage.
We can always forage.
How's your survival skill doing in space?
What you didn't realize is that my character is a planeswalker, and I went over to Star Trek and I took one of their replicators and brought it over to Star.
See, that would be an interesting little game. How about that? You get the 5R, a 5E, SRD, or like a D20 rule system or something like that, and you run it like Magical Sharpening, Arcade Benabashi, or Excel Saga, or something like that, where what you're doing is, you're in Star Wars. So you start off with a character whose mind cannot be completely and entirely blown by technology, because that would be And at least they have concepts of religion, so when they find out gods are real in D&D, they don't go crazy either. So then they go from that world, and they're like, oh, well, we somehow found this portal that led us to this other world, and now you're in D&D, and now you're in Star Trek, and now you're in all these other properties.
It sounds like a really cool idea, right?
Then it's one-offs, and each DM is different each session.
Even that part sounds like a cool idea.
Like a party game.
But I think that if you're going to do it, you either have to tell the players in advance, which completely robs the surprise factor.
No, you just tell them, hey, this is going to be a really, really weird game, and you're just going to all have to roll with the flow and be okay with it. This is what's happening.
See,
are you ready for a weird game?
That
might not be great, but you're still going to give me everything you can.
I think that you have to preface somehow. Like that, I think, is actually the best heads up. Shit's going to be really weird.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches. We're starting with Star Wars.
Yeah. We're starting with... What do you mean starting? Okay, well, let's just do the thing.
Yeah. No, but...
yeah. What's that TV show? Stay Tuned or Tuned In? Or it's from the 80s. And it was about a guy who ordered a satellite dish for his television. And his neighbor... Because his neighbor had a big one. And his neighbor disappeared. Anyway, so he orders it, and what it does is it sucks you into the television. And so then, like, as people are changing channels, like, you are in the world that the channel's on, and he's just trying to find a way back home.
Oh, that's intense. That could be fun. That'd be an interesting one-off.
Yeah.
But no, I've tried to do the flipping the script thing with one system, and then it's like, oh yeah, you built a character for this setting, and then all of a sudden if you don't give players some sort of heads up that something like that's coming...
Oh, God. Yeah, you have to let them know they're in a zany game.
Yeah.
Like, when I take you to the cartoon world of Bonkers, you're going to be like, yo, what the heck did we just do? Why
No, I
is there
mean,
a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
I've
over
seen
there?
it done in a less bonkers format.
No, I mean Bonkers, the literal cartoon show about the
I'm-
orange police cat. Yeah, exactly.
But no, the one I did is it was a D&D setting, right? And they're playing. It was all D&D. Everything was going good, and then they found a way outside of the bounds of the area that they weren't supposed to get out of. And what it ended up being is that they were on a massive set of colony ships that were sent out from Earth. So it's actually a sci-fi setting.
What a twist!
It was not super fucking.
No, it's actually
fantastic.
straight out of an episode of Star Trek and Orville. Orville redid it, and it was my favorite episode from season 1 of Orville.
I might have seen the Star Trek one. I don't know. But either way, they were in a fantasy setting with fantasy situations.
Yeah.
And then they got outside of the
And
bounds.
then suddenly they're like, this is weird. These are metal rooms with the
Yeah.
stairways everywhere and all that. And then we go up and we get through one door here, one door there. Well, that's weird. The magic sliding doors. And then you see like a wall that's a window and there's all of space and a thing and another ship. And you're like, wait, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
and apparently that just didn't like it. Everyone at the table at that time.
Yeah, well, what like I said, not knowing the story you're about to tell, you start them off in Star Wars, so when they see all the technology, their minds are instantly blown. Because here's the thing: if I'm actually role playing this, I'm a rogue, and I'm for the thingy thing, and I have to pray to this god, and I do the thing, and all this other stuff, and I stab, and I have a rapier, and blah blah. Blah. Then I find out that all of the world is fake. And at the same time, all of the world is there's a technology, and I'm actually this other being thing, and then, like, no, it's way too much at once. Like if you did that in Hunter, it'd be like, okay, well, we're done. I'm check it out. What do you mean you're checking out?
Essentially, that's the way Hunter begins.
Well, I know. That's why if you added, oh, by the way, also you're all on a ship, like this, like I quit. I can't tell if this is reality or if I'm insane or if this is reality, but I'm also insane. Like, we're actually on a spaceship, but the seeing vampires part is part of this coming crazy. Or if, you know what I mean? I can't tell which, like, and so for trying to nail down a character, especially if you already have this character here and suddenly this is the new truth. Yeah, it's hard to roleplay that change so rapidly other than go, I went crazy. What do you mean? I can't.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Put these things together in my head.
And so that's what I'm saying. If you're gonna do it, you have to preface it somehow. You have to give people a heads up.
It's gonna go wild and zany. And you should go from tech back to not tech, back to tech.
Well,
in my
but
opinion.
I mean, really, it depends on how you represent tech, right? It will just look like magic.
Yeah, but like in the future world, that means all things are magic. Because eventually everything has got to tech.
But what is magic?
No, I'm saying like once you're on a spaceship and you're from like a D&D world, every single thing you interact with is magic. The whole world is not magic. Everything the thing you're standing on is magic.
Sure.
And that's a little overwhelming.
I mean,
especially if you're a magician and you're like detect magic and it shows you nothing and you're like, oh, I've got some explaining to do. Like, what's going on here?
But then, if you're doing it right, it might present everything as magic.
Gnomes got really crazy. Like for instance, if D&D characters went to Spelljammer and then went to Star Wars, then you're like, okay, well you had a step. You understood now that like space is a thing.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Stars are a place you can travel to.
I guess, but the way that Spelljammer deals with space is a unique monstrosity unto itself.
Plane travel.
Well, no, on top of the planes, the area between prime material planes, what we would call space, they call the Flogenstein or something like that. And it's like combustible liquid space.
So if you started a fire, all of it would just go on fire?
Yes.
All of it?
Yes.
Why hasn't somebody done that yet?
I'm sure someone has.
Now, how does it repopulate with...
Oh, but all the prime material planes
this
are
is
protected
magic.
by bubbles.
We're in D&D, this is magic. Yeah, but don't you think that... Oh, that's weird. For some reason, the sky just turned bright fire,
For a
and then
moment.
it went back to black.
Yeah.
And then that happens every 40 minutes because people are assholes. I don't want anybody traveling the world plane. What are you going to do? I'm going to poke the outside of my plane with a stick that has a flame on the end of it, and you can just turn it on.
No, there's actually a pretty in-depth write-up on the Floggenstein space. I'll get it for you. It's actually interesting.
And plane travel.
Yeah.
You just go from bubble to bubble through liquid space of explosive gasoline.
Yeah.
Well, no problem for fuel.
Except for that's not what you use for fuel.
Except that is what I use for fuel now. It's right there. It's free.
Well, you don't have an engine that uses it.
I know. I built a diesel engine.
Oh.
Built a diesel engine. Why? Because I'm a gnome.
Actually, I think the most interesting engines in Spelljammer are the Dwarven Fortress Spelljammers. Because they're literally fueled by the crafting that's done inside of them. Yeah. I like the look that you just
Their
gave.
fuel should be removed based on when they break down their crafts. Like, no, you have to keep crafting new things. You can't recraft out of old craft.
Oh, no. They have to keep crafting new things.
How, then? Do they get anywhere?
Because
we're out of materials in space.
They're giant mountains that are full of materials, like the entire...
They just moved the whole mountain.
Yes.
Ow. That makes sense, then. They still won't run out of materials.
Yeah. They also have a massive cargo capacity, and they're constantly ensuring that their cargo is full of material.
Well, yeah. I mean, once you craft, you just pop the trade market. Well, we made all this shit on the way here, so buy it. And
We
more
made like
and
50 tons worth of steel crafts.
we made 50 tons worth of small steel baubles. See, if you hold it here, and then you can spin it here, and it'll just keep spinning.
It's funny that you're making that joke, because if you play Dwarf Fortress, one of the first things most people make money off of in the game to like survive is by making stone toys.
Yeah, it's
Stone baubles.
Yeah, that's well. If you look at history, like stone baubles, wood carved baubles, jade, and other things that are like basic mineral baubles.
The easiest baubles are the ones that you make first. Then you make more intricate baubles.
TVs.
And at some point you realize that you can make things other than baubles, and then you make nuclear missiles.
Yep. There's a story from...
There's no other things between baubles and nuclear missiles. You just go bauble, 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 nuke.
There was a... There's nothing in between. No, I was gonna say there's a alien species from Hitchhiker's Guide, or Douglas Adams, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And what it is they're a species that was like the happiest species in the entire universe. Like they had want for nothing. It was just a good old life.
Okay.
And their entire planet was covered in a cloud cover. And so they never looked up to space or thought about space because they couldn't see it. And then one day, a rocket from space, like that somebody was traveling, or like a probe or something, like broke through their cloud cover and like crash landed and blew up, scared the crap out of them. And so then they were like, holy crap, there's stuff out there. And then like they got super hyper paranoid because that thing was like pretty much blew up. And so they were like, okay, crap, there's other people out there. That means like our little existence wasn't what we thought it was. And they were all like horribly unhappy. Like all of their zen kind of left, and they were like, well, how do we fix this? Oh, I know. We got to go back to where it was. So we got to kill every other thing in the entire universe so that we would go back to where we were. So there's nothing outside anymore. And so that was their plan. We're going to go across the entire universe killing everything. And then we're going to go back and then we'll be fine because, like, nothing will be outside of us anymore. And they, like, in, like, a small span of time went from, like, no technology and to, like, like in military or rockets and, like, to building huge rockets with tons of military application. Like, they went, like, they're the most militaristic species in the entire universe now.
They went from 0 to 100
in like 5 seconds. Like,
yeah.
Whoop! Okay, time to go around and destroy worlds.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. It's a good book. It's a really good book, especially if you're thinking about zaniness in space.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely... I think that really would fit more to a Star Trek game, though. I mean, the entire idea behind Star Trek, not later episodes or later series, but if you go to the core concept, it's going and exploring random craziness.
Yeah, it really is kind
So
of crazy. I mean, it's a little muted in the show, but if you really think about what they're doing, you're like, holy crap.
the beauty of it is if you're running in like the earlier Star Trek setting,
Trouble with tribbles.
you can do whatever you want. Oh, I want to have a planet that's lithids. Okay, cool. That works.
I want a planet. You go down there, and it's actually they've already done that multiple times. Where it's like a D&D world of a medieval world or
medieval world that has magic. They've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's technology, but sometimes it's actually
unexplainable
phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah, but another show to describe the idea of that switching genre to the game thing would be something like Sliders.
Yeah.
Where you're just kind of like, but that's kind of like you roll through the same.
They shifted
universes.
more time. I mean, it's definitely a genre.
It was parallel universes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, what it was is different things that happened in the past in those worlds that causes different outcomes. So you're sliding from your dimension to a parallel dimension.
But I mean, for the most part, it was still just human Earth.
Yeah, it was always human Earth. That's the thing. It was just a different dimension of what was occurring then.
So it's
a little different than changing the whole genre.
Time travel.
No. It was like you're here now. You're in a world where Nazis won World War II.
No, they never went back to the World War II. Because I could have sworn
No,
in
they just
Sliders
go
they
from
went
world
to
to
different.
world
Yeah,
to
I know they
world
went to
to
different
world.
worlds, but it kind of felt like they were in different times too.
Well, no, what had happened was different things had happened in the past in that world, which caused
maybe
it
I
to be.
just
That's why it's a
perceived
different
it,
dimension,
okay.
like the one where the communists took over. It's the concept is that the communists won the Cold War, and now they're taking control of us, and that's what had happened. Or there was like. What happened? Dr. Naismith built a different game than basketball. He built a game where you had to answer quiz questions when you're playing the basketball. And so because of that, now basketball professionally is like this thing where you pass the ball, you have to answer a science or math question, and then you get to pass the ball or shoot.
Huh.
And so it became like an academic decathlon. Where people were getting paid millions and millions to be stars of this thing where being smart was really important.
It's actually kind of
And so it impacts like the whole culture in a way. The value of what's more important.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
But I don't know how you would run that with a role playing unless the game was designed behind that. There's no point to doing that if you have a character. Well, what's your character's goal? My character wants to get my family's good name back by saving the people of the land. And okay, well now you're in 3 different worlds. Good luck ever getting your character goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your idea is to do crazy different settings, you can still do it within D&D. You just go, hey guys, before we start, this is a planescape game.
Yeah, like a planeswalking game. Another thing though is to make sure that everybody is going to get characters that give them something out of that kind of game. And the problem is well, what do you do then? Do you not run the game at all? If some people want to run characters that aren't like that, or do you coax them into saying, okay, well, I'll give this a try, where I'm more of this.
I think from a
person.
DMing standpoint, I haven't done this for y'all before because I'm a master procrastinator. But a write-up, a blurb, and a general idea of what you're trying to achieve in the game. And then instead of just handing out one single one, you write out, you come up with like 2 or 3 ideas that you really have a passion for, even if it's just at the moment. And you give a little write out, and it doesn't have to be more than 1 or 2 paragraphs. That way it's something easy to consume that gives a general idea of where the tone of the setting and the story that you want to tell is. That way, when the players pick it up, they can look at that and they go, okay, I know what I'd like to play in this.
Yeah, but without giving too much away.
No, again, it's very...
So like setting up a game like that, you'd go, hey, man, it'd be really good if your character was very fluid, he didn't put importance on any kind of material goods that he might have, or people or things, very fluid, ready to leave at a moment's notice, uncommitted... and yeah,
just think of it like with video games. If you had to think of the Pathfinder Kingmaker game,
yeah,
how would you? I know you haven't finished it. I know I haven't finished it, but I've played enough of it that I think I could maybe give it a 1 to 2 paragraph summary.
Easy, yeah.
And will give you an idea of the kind of game that you're getting ready to play without giving you everything. One of the
Frontier, mystery solving. You're going to eventually manage and run something. All of your impacts and small interactions are going to have larger impacts later in a global scale. Like specifically, like the specific results of certain things are going to have an impact later.
Now, with that, you'd also want to give a very brief description of the area that we're going to be playing in. So
Frontier.
You use Frontier, but you want to be a little more... Where normally you're super wordy, right now you're being super light. You need to add a few more words.
Temperate, forested frontier land with wild creatures and established monster races.
There you go. And maybe the name of the frontier.
What Westphalia?
There you go.
I don't know what the name of it is.
I don't know either. Remember. But the point is that, you know. That way the players get this general, very quick overview, and they'll know, actually, this is the kind of character I want to put into this.
Are you familiar with any historical RPGs? Are there a bunch of those at all?
I'm sure they exist.
Like historical non-fantasy. I don't mean Robin Hood the RPG.
No, you mean like Rome or...
yeah, something like Rome, or I was literally thinking about that Kingdom Come Deliverance PC game where you play in like Poland and like the...
I believe I have seen one for Rome, and I think I've seen some for the Civil War.
Who in the heck wants to roleplay the Civil War? Like, what weird southern... I have a battle flag of the South in my garage dude wants to do that. I know, I totally get wargaming the Civil War. Who is role-playing the Civil War?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, there's no way to do that okay. Like... I mean, seriously, there's not.
Yeah, I get that.
It's like, what are your what are you trying to achieve? What are your motivations? What are you trying to get out of roleplay the Civil War? Seriously. Well, I think it's a great time of great honor, and I wanted, okay, well, you can do that at a battle thing. Like, what interactions are you having? How often does your DM NPC certain things? Are those, like look, it's one thing, like for instance, we go into that discussion, you can look at, like, when a male role player role plays a female character. Mm-hmm. Like Tony doing it in our D&D, he's doing it pretty well. Like, he's pretty much staying away from...
Just playing a giant slut?
Yeah, that thing that happens when a lot of dudes do it, where they're just like, look at me, I've got boobs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, wow. But I don't know if there's a way to roleplay almost any of the characters there. Like, without it being... what the... Because you're going to assume you know what those types of people are thinking. You're going to assume you know what these types of people are thinking. And that kind of... I don't know. It just seems hard to detach from that the way you would Rome. Rome is like a whole minute back. It's easier to detach.
I definitely see what you're saying. And if someone who did not know what was going on in that room walked by... There would be some very strange looks and possibly the...
Yeah, like I can just imagine you going...
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, you're saying...
Oh, no, it's okay. We're playing the Union. No, still no. Like, still no.
Yeah.
That's not the point. That's not the thing. It's happening here.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just...
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like the revisionist history fiction and fantasy novels. You know, they can be entertaining, for sure.
Until someone writes them into our school books.
That's pretty valid. No, I'm just the only reason I'm saying that is because it's like, can you imagine playing that and just, yeah, I'm gonna change. I want to where if it was done this way. Like role play. I mean, you know, you could probably, in a very small, how about that? In a very small setting, in a very controlled setting of gameplay. You guys are role playing this scene. It's all happening at this house over the course of one night.
Yeah, like a murder mystery almost.
Something to that effect, or like just a contained thing where it's like you, because okay, take Joey's penchant for pushing limits in what he can get away with in some of the role playing aspects, and then take it to that setting.
Yeah.
And see how quick there are going to be people at that table that become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, it could have happened. No, bro, it probably did happen a whole bunch. I just don't want to think about it right now.
It's a little cringeworthy, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think, like, where you can go back to this the night ages of this age. I guess every age has its issues with those things. It's just a lot more detached further back.
Well, it's because even though we may still be dealing with those issues or repercussions of those particular events, it's not in your face the event.
The event itself, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if anybody goes into that and they're like, "Oh, I want to play that unit from Glory," it's like, you never saw the movie Glory with Matthew Broderick?
No, I haven't, but that's
nice.
Yeah. No, I haven't, but since we're on the topic, even though it's a touchy subject in general, how do you deal with racism between fantasy races?
Racism exists in the world. I would do the same thing in Vampire. Racism exists. It can easily exist. I wouldn't use it without paying for it in some way if it was a story element. I wouldn't really abide somebody just being blatantly racist unless like it's a lot like in something like Vampire. It'd be a lot. If it was, they're going to have to upkeep that. They're going to have to make sure this is okay with all the people here at this table, and understand that that's a thing that is happening. Now that's what I'm saying about the Civil War thing is, look, if you role play that and you do realism, like straight realism, and everybody at the table and everybody participating is like, I'm okay with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with there being a problem. What I'm saying is, I bet half the people who play something like that fantasize it. Yeah. There isn't racism.
Yeah.
All of my black people like me because they service me. Like that kind of shit where you're looking at it and you're going, are you serious right now? You can't do that.
Yeah.
If you're going to face it, then at least be real about it. But if it's some kind of fantasy escapism,
I was gonna say even in like the fantasy races like the Drow or the Illithids where they have slaves, it's not just one subgroup or one group that they pick. They will just enslave everyone that isn't. No, actually, if it's not the Illithids, they just enslave everyone.
Well, no. What I mean though is if you present that slavery though. What happens? Well, you're going down and you notice that all the gnomes are singing in time and they're really pleasurable and it seems like they're enjoying themselves in the Illithid slave pit. You're like,
actually,
wait, what?
In the Illithid slave pit, it could happen just because of...
if it's a very friendly Illithid, it's like, actually, I'd like my people to enjoy themselves while I'm doing it.
So I play, show tunes into their head.
Yeah.
With my
so it's torturous.
Hyper strong psionics.
It's
still torturous, but
you just can't tell from the outside.
Yeah.
But see, if you uncovered that would be even more wretchedly like you know what I mean? You look at that and go, oh my god, that's forever, nonstop.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hell.
I don't even get to pick the music.
Yeah. So at least you get to play that it's hell, right? But if you play it off as though, it's not a big deal. Well, then it takes away from that anyway.
I think sometimes when people present stuff like slavery in a role playing setting, they do kind of throw it off as it's not a big
just another
deal
thing
because they don't want to face it. They want the element, but they don't want to face the element.
And that like you know me, I'm a player that I want the grit, I want the dark, I want the dirty. Why? Because dirty is usually real.
Yeah.
And so if you have that situation,
it has more realism to it.
Yeah, there's more realism there. Then okay, then there's some realism being addressed. But for something like that, like Civil War, you got to do a lot of due diligence. You better be reading some books, some contemporaneous, like that's your player's manual, your DM's manual. It ain't like Way of the South or some 1950s book. It's reading contemporaneous letters and reading and then presenting that realism. And if you did that, I guarantee you most of the people at the table would not be comfortable. I didn't think this is what this was going to be. Sorry, bro. But going back, I would be much more
like
going back to less connected things like the Spanish Civil War. That was, I don't know if you've seen there's paintings of the Spanish Civil War of dogs eating leftover people because it was wretched. But you can detach it from anything that's current in today's realm, so you can go all to the darkest places of humanity without actually having to feel like...
See, what I like to do is I like to look at things like that and try and find a way to repackage it for my fantasy setting. Like, you're talking about the dogs eating dead bodies, the Civil War being that extreme and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, it's the Spanish Civil War.
So, the Spanish Civil War, of course. But you take the imagery and the things that you can find from that, and you like, if you're having a big war setting, and if the party is involved, or let's say the party's mercenaries have just been floating around, have them come across a battlefield where there's 1,000 bodies strewn across this field. You still hear the moaning of dying people that probably have been laying out here for a couple days because they're slowly bleeding out. Then you see the carrion animals that are starting to...
picking people that are... Yeah.
And you deliver these moments, these beats. That can be really heavy, especially if you have players that are
willing to dip their toe.
Hey, what's up,
that.
Sodium?
Hello. Yeah, dip your toes into that kind of thing. Yeah. A lot of players don't. They're averse to that, though. I think that can be an issue. Right now, we were talking about historical RPing and like how you can take some of those elements and roll them into your games, or how you would gain them themselves. Yeah. I think like Andersonville, things like that. Like, just like you can go to these wretched places of humanity based just on what you have to pull from humans.
Yeah.
I think if you were to roll those into D&D or into we were talking about Star Wars before Star Wars, you can probably, like the Empire in Star Wars. Look at the Empire in Star Wars, it's the ultimate evil, right?
Wait a second, I'm gonna.
It's like the ultimate evil. So when you look at that, you never see these super evil things that are done, though. I didn't read the books. I know you read some of the books, but like, when was the last time you saw the full image of a spice mine actually laid out for you, what it really was, and how bad it was, or things like like slave systems and things like that.
I don't think they've ever,
or like when they massacred the Kashyyyk, the species,
yeah,
the Wookiees and stuff.
They talk about it, but they
poke in on it, but they don't
avoid the depth of it.
Yeah. And so you could take some of these things and bring in that Star Wars setting.
Even when they talk about some of the planets where they've done things like Kashyyyk, you mentioned Kashyyyk, they'll one off it. They glass the planet. I think we missed the person, unfortunately.
Oh.
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, how do you know who's on right now?
I can click the thing right here. Couple people on here.
Sweet, yeah. Well, no, it was just, you can bring that darkness in. Is all I'm.
You can. I haven't read a ton of the extended lore books or the story books. I just read the core books. Not for role playing. I mean, like I read A New Hope. Actually, I've only read 3 Star Wars books. A New Hope, The Phantom Menace.
I thought you were further.
No, I really only...
Oh, you were in on the Imperial bodyguard.
Oh, yeah, the comic books, yes.
Yeah.
I think I have a couple of those here, actually. The Crimson Empire, those were great. Those were really interesting reading for me. But I always thought that the Imperial... If you take out the aspect of Palpatine, and maybe even Vader to a certain extent, but like the concept of this Legion-like army... That's probably also why I have a fascination with Rome. I thought that part was cool. Like, that was the part that drew me in.
Which, the
stormtroopers, the regimented, Legion, all the people wearing the same armor.
The fascists? You're like, yeah, that was it. The fascism.
No, I really think more the military portion of it.
Yeah. Because
I also, like I said, the Roman Legion was something... Before I knew more about what Rome was, it was the Legion, the military, the glory and honor,
the order,
point. Yeah,
and the fraternity.
Which, if you get attached to those things, can be a very dangerous road.
What was that called when they pulled lots and then killed like a third of their people? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do.
Where they were like, we're getting weak. Okay, we're gonna kill a third of us. Get us strong again. Like,
I forget what that's called, but yeah, that is a thing.
and I'm like, yo, bro, I'm just working to become a citizen. Like, I only have a year left. What are you talking about? You're gonna kill? No, I got a year left before retirement, and I'm a citizen of Rome. This is bull.
Well, actually, like when Caesar did it, he did it because 2 of those legions were getting ready to just knock off. They were like, we've done our stint. We're done fighting. And he was like, no, you're not.
They don't know we are though.
Yeah, but you're not. No, we are. Okay. Well, now I'm going to take 5 of my legions, and you can either fucking die to all of my legions, or you can all draw sticks, and a third of y'all are all going to kill, you know.
Okay.
The 2/3 of y'all are going to kill a third.
Or one really, really, really charismatic person's going to walk out and go, hey guys, I know we're about to have a battle. I know that you're just standing there in order right now. I need you to listen to me though. We were just about to retire when this was pulled on us. Do you think it's not going to get pulled on you later? Yeah. Oh, start thinking real quick. Start thinking. If they did it to us, why wouldn't they do it to you?
Actually, it wasn't done that often.
Oh, no, it wasn't. But if they did it to anybody, I'd be like, look, they didn't do it for punishment. They did it because it was like a way of making the unit more like it was just like, what? Well, the Germans, you can't wear... Like, that's what I don't get. World War I, German plane, don't parachutes because we don't want people to cower it out. But they didn't do what the World War II Japanese units that were designed to kamikaze did, which were kamikaze. Well, I don't know how much damage you would have done with like a 4-cylinder inline engine with a 120-pound... Like, most of your plane's probably going to crash before the building does.
Probably. I don't think that that it would have the same impact.
No, I don't think so either, actually.
So
it weighs like a 15th.
Plus, you couldn't exactly load it full of gasoline. There's only so much gas you could get into it.
You could actually carry, before it wasn't.
I think if you were trying to do some sort of a suicide bombing thing and that's like a kamikaze flyer, it'd be more like, I've got my blimp.
Yeah,
if
if I get it really low to the ground before we set this thing on fire,
yeah,
it could do some damage. If anything, the debris is gonna like really piss off that tank driver who's covered up.
Well, but I mean, tanks from that era were not very impressive either.
No, they were not. Nothing was impressive. Oh, no, but back to D&D though. Some of the other things we're thinking about, running for under 4 people. Right, so...
I mean, there's different ways to approach that. And I think the one that's more challenging is like the one-on-one session. How do you keep a game interesting when it's just you and one player? How do you keep it so they can engage in combat? How do you make it so they can still progress through the world doing things?
I think once it becomes you versus one player... Not versus, but you and one player. It really comes down to almost all role playing. Combat comes down to you just fudging numbers and creating a scene. It really does.
I mean,
pull,
you definitely
tension.
Can do it that way, but to a certain degree, if that's all you're doing, it can steal some of that agency that you never want to steal.
Well, I mean, no, you can still have them roll for things and DC checks and stuff. But what I mean to say is like. Most often when I'm in a situation where it's a one-on-one role-playing, what I'm doing is I'm doing pre-role-playing with a character who's about to join a session of a group.
For the most time when I find myself doing it, it's either... Yeah, I was going to say, it's either that, the pre-game, or it's downtime. Downtime where you decided you're doing something completely separate from everyone else. And, like, the last time I ran downtime for the players in the Friday game, there were moments where they would interact with each other, so I had to figure out the timeline so it all could mesh up. But individually, I sat down with everyone in between the sessions to get it set up and worked out. So, but for running a whole, let's say a whole game or a whole session in a one-on-one situation, you're gonna want to probably present some NPCs that may even travel with them if they're traveling somewhere doing something. But you want to make sure that those NPCs never steal agency from the player. You don't want the NPC traveling with that person to be like, if you come across a situation where the person doesn't know what to do and they go, "Hey NPC, what should we do?" I don't know. I'm with you, man. Like,
or have two different NPCs arguing with each other over what to do, and the arbiter of that decision becomes the player.
Yeah, that's another approach, which would be good.
Because again, it's like at least you give them the illusion of choice there. If they don't know
in that
what
situation,
to walk down.
you've created two roads, but they're still choosing the road.
Which one to go on. Yeah, but if you were to just you're traveling with 4 NPCs, and you're like, I want to go over to that cave, and the 4 NPCs are like, no, we don't have time for that. We're going this way.
Yeah,
well, you guys, I'm going to go over to that cave.
Why am I even here then?
Yeah, why am I here? I'm just a guy rolling in combat?
Unless, of course, the intention was for those NPCs to drive the player off to do their own thing. So...
No, I really need you to get to this one combat. I shouldn't even have mentioned that cave. They're all dying the next combat anyway. Just go to the combat, dang it. No, DM, just change the combat to on the way to the cave.
Yeah, just move it to the cave.
Yeah.
Just move things around.
Make it away.
But the other elements, no matter how many players you are, is basic storytelling. Make sure that you plant a hook. You have the flow of success and failure, not just in like an individual scenario situation, but
it's something that the character wants as well. That's motivating them.
Yeah, which comes down to character creation from the player themselves. They have to give their character some sort of goals and
you can still
interests.
Build that into the group later as well.
Yeah.
But if you need to run a consistent long-term session with one person,
it's manageable.
It can get daunting though.
It can be tedious and daunting. It really comes down to how much role playing are you doing. For the DM, it's very challenging.
You want to balance combat? What, you need 3 NPCs? What, at least 2 in the least? Well, that's 2 extra people you're role playing.
Well,
on top of every scenario that you're role playing.
You say that, but I could fix that pretty easily. So you have a Warforged companion that doesn't have a mouth. So right now he's essentially like a pet robot.
Yeah, but now we're talking about how you have to specifically cater the story to be a specific way in order to get those things easily, as opposed to...
Well, I mean, sometimes that's okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, like if the options are not role playing at all, or doing it this way, then but again, if that's what it takes for it to be a long-term thing that isn't horrible, because eventually it does. It feels like, I'm meeting the same people over and over again.
The tedium sets in,
and for a DM, that's a lot of work.
Well, it's the same amount of work that you would have with a group. The difference is when you're engaging more than one personality, aka your players, you get different responses, which sometimes just having a different response than you expected to a situation suddenly turns into a webwork of new opportunities and new thoughts on your end.
Yeah, if you've got 4 or 5 people feeding you in ideas, it's a lot easier to...
Yeah.
But again, it's a lot easier to get them to go down one of the idea paths when you don't have 4 or 5 people arguing over which one they want to do.
Yes. Or you have one person arguing against the thing that everyone has already decided they weren't doing.
Yeah. We shouldn't do this. Yeah, we just said we're not doing it. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we shouldn't do it. I know we said we're not doing it. I know what I said. I'm just saying we shouldn't do it. Okay, what are we doing?
Apparently not that.
Yeah, we know that's off the list. Let's get to the next thing. Everybody started deferring to me in the Star Wars game this weekend.
That was
we're
interesting.
just following you. And I'm like, did I take a leader role here somewhere? Like, I'm not a leader in the other game. I'm literally the follower in the other game. Where did this impression come from?
I think that you just got saddled with it.
Yeah, I'm pilot. I'm here. I'm doing this.
Actually, I think it came from the first time you mentioned some unhappiness with the NPC captain's choices. And they were like, you're probably right. Getting with the Hutts is a bad idea.
But we can make money.
But we could make money. But we're also deferring to you. We're saying that it's an interesting idea, but you need to make the choice. So...
assassinate the Hutt with a flying ship.
I'm surprised y'all didn't end up going after the yacht first.
Why?
I don't know. Just seemed
This
like...
is on the way.
I see that. I get that. It's just kind of a...
We didn't agree anything to do anything for the Hutts.
No,
we
you
were
didn't.
clear that we didn't agree.
You didn't agree
anything.
to anything. I was surprised that you didn't just go do it anyways.
Yeah, I know. We probably will be going to do it anyways. At which point in time, we'll kill the Hutt brother, and then we'll inform the other Hutts that Hutt called a hit out, so that the other Hutts are now in war with Jabba. So we start a new Hutt war. Tons more contracts.
Tons more contracts. Generate your own job security.
Yep, exactly. By destroying Hutts.
That's nice. I like it.
Yeah, and that's why I need to know how to mimic voice, right? That way I can, like, since I know Huttese, I can, like, mimic the Hutt who's dead's voice and be like, "No, Jabba, don't do it! Ah! See this recording we have?
Oh, that's great.
It's the other Hutt. He said Jabba. I don't know what's going on. He said Jabba though right before he died.
I'm curious to see what y'all end up trying to do all on the Lucre Hulk. 'Cause at the end of the session, y'all found 3 extra suits. That's not
So
enough
we have
suits.
2 that work. No, 3 that work.
Joey used mending on the 2 extra ones, so
to make one working one.
No, 2.
Oh, I thought it was you combine the 2 broken things to make
Well,
one.
that
broken
was
thing.
my intention because I didn't understand that it had mending the spell as a tech ability, which I should have. It's D&D-esque
Star Wars.
So I mean, I guess I could probably rule that mending isn't strong enough to fix them.
Well, no, I mean, saying you could say, yeah, you can mend it. Like, you could do it, like, through tech and engineering. You could do it, like, by resalvaging other materials to reuse with this.
Well, no,
or through mending. But mending, what you have to do is you have to take pieces from the one to the other, and that's how you're mending.
Yeah.
It's not like force mending.
Yeah.
But it technically is those tech spells.
It's a tech spell.
Which is, like... And you were upset with how I was trying to run a low no magic. And this dude's here getting tech spells.
Yeah.
It's magic technology.
Well, I've already said magic can be technology.
Yeah, but it's one or the other. It's not both.
Well, it can be both.
Well, no, I mean, but I'm like mending. So what do? You repair the thing with your tech wizardry by going, and then it's literal tech wizardry as opposed to like
that was something that kind of caught me. Like, I'm glad it was at the end of the session because I was just like, that wasn't the intent.
Mending.
So I'm gonna have to look at it more. There are aspects of this 5e conversion.
Yeah, because each one of them Enviro suits is worth 2,000.
I know.
Which is, if we got 4 of them,
8,000 credits if you can find a buyer.
If we can find, who doesn't need an Enviro suit?
I don't know. It depends on where you go to sell it.
Every time a new ship goes out, they need at least 1 Enviro suit if you ain't got one already. And it's always good to have a spare.
Yeah. You guys are learning that. You only had 1.
Yeah, apparently. Again, the captain making bad decisions for all of us. Oh, by the way, if there was a hole in or a puncture in our hull, all of you but 1 would die. Now, the real question here is, why was the one that we had in the captain's quarters? Just asking. We're not valuable to him. See, so mutiny's acceptable.
It's a matter of how you look at it. So far, he hasn't been unfair to you.
Well, yeah, kinda. Apparently, he had enough to gamble away a ton of money. He could have paid us more.
Well, you don't know why he is indebted 20,000 to the Huts.
That's another thing. I really wanted to ask a lot of more questions to a lot of different people and do some more investigation and figure out where Hut is and do this and that. And I definitely need other things like a tracker.
Yeah. Also, you were very blunt in some of the questions you asked.
In the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be, though. But then I wasn't supposed to meet with everybody else. I was going to leave. The whole point was
I thought you were leaving, and then everyone was like, no. And then I asked you, and then you were like, no, I went to them.
Yeah,
and
I
was
went to the bar. And because originally my plan was to go back to the ship, but then everybody was having this stumbly issue problem with doing other things. And I was like, hey, guys, the whole reason I went and did that very publicly and not attached to you guys when I entered and all that was so that I could leave. And then one of you guys might be able to see if anybody tried to follow me out for being so broad and open about things.
Yeah.
And then we would have a situation where
you could question
we're one up on someone else.
Yeah.
Like, they're not expecting to get jumped by 3 guys when they chase, Yeah,
although the location of Jabba's palace isn't a tightly guarded secret, when someone who clearly has defined that they don't know then follows it up with, well, where could I find Jabba?
Yeah, where is Jabba?
No one wants to be the guy who
sent
the guy
There's
with a
one
gun.
guy who sent me to the one person, and that person I'm going to go back to later once Jabba's blown up and he has a huge bounty on us. I'm going to be like, look, you need to give us these resources. Why? Well, because if not, I'm the first one to tell Jabba you're the one who helped us out. Everybody in that bar will remember it. Yeah, that's another reason I did it so open and publicly. Because it's like, okay, I'm going to let somebody else, be dumb enough to do something they know they're not supposed to do here.
Nice.
Come back to the bar, this dude's just flayed open on the top of it. Like, whoa. No police out here.
Jabba takes things quite seriously.
But that's every Friday now at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
On the Bullcritters Corner.
That one isn't one that we're...
And then Tuesday will be... Oh, we're not streaming? Why not?
We hadn't been streaming Star Wars. I guess that's something we could discuss.
Yeah, just stream... everything, all the games. They're good games. So Star Wars, we do that at 7 on Friday, and Tuesday we'd normally be doing the
this Tuesday, like we said before, we're going to be doing world building, and based on how that goes, we may end up having a second week of continued world building. I mean, if we take 4 hours and really crack into it this week, we might have it up to the point we need it at.
Mid-age 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But every other week there'll be when is the role playing starting again on that?
The Tuesday ones, I think we're going to shift that to start. Well, I think we've been starting at 7.
No, I mean when's the next time that game's coming back? The week after, or 2 weeks after? World building.
2 weeks after, I believe.
Okay. So
we're looking at picking it back up early August.
Okay, so Tuesday, 7 p.m. early August, and then I think we should start streaming them Friday. I mean, we should. There's no reason not to. They're good games. It was fun. And it'll give something for the audience to tune into in the meantime. So?
I think that's going to be it for today. We got to actually crack down and do some work on the module.
Work on the module, yeah. And get some other stuff going here. Give me another cup of coffee.
That's what we're looking at. Thanks for coming out, guys.
Thanks for joining. See you again
next week. This has been the Bullcritters Corner. I'm Steve.
I'm John.
Y'all have a wonderful day.
Have a good day.